A quick video on Swordsman VR, ranking the boss swords. Now in Swordsman VR there are 4 or 5 bosses I think. But yeah, there are 5 bosses, but there are technically 7 if you include all the extra content. So that means there are a set amount of swords. Now we're going to be going over every single sword, giving them a rank out of 5. And we are going to be explaining their effect and their special ability, because they can do that. So here we are in arena with the Knight Sword, or the Source I think it's called, I can't remember. And it doesn't have a special, however it does have a effect that is quite useful for killing the rest of the bosses, which I would recommend doing. I would recommend the Knight boss first, because the boss for the Knight's really easy. Basically, all you have to do is deal with at least 3 enemies at a time, which is relatively easy. But one of the enemies has a bigger health bar, but it's got similar attacks to regular knights. Because this is the exact sword he uses it one hand, so he's pretty quick. But it's like a shield, really, it just doesn't have the shield. It's really easy, it's a really easy boss. But basically, what this sword does is it increases your health regeneration and gives you an amazing extra 30 HP, which can be really useful, like I said, for the other bosses. Now, this sword I would give a 4 out of 5. I would give it a 5 if it had a special ability, like for example the healing that the boss does, because it's got like an aura in it at one point where it can heal itself. But all in all, I would give the sword a 4 out of 5. I would use it for the other bosses. And yeah, that's about it. Now we're going to go on to the Viking sword. So here we are with the Stormbringer. Now, as similar as it sounds to Thor's Stormbreaker, surprisingly it's actually pretty similar, I guess. So what this sword is, it does this. It does a huge, powerful lightning attack as its special ability. I've got a modifier on that has it infinite. But basically, if you don't know how to do a special move with the sword, boss sword only by the way, then you must press triangle. Look how powerful this is. If that's not pure strength, I don't know what it is. Just spam it with the modifier on, and there you go, you're unbeatable. But this sword is obtained by killing the Viking boss, which I'd actually say is probably the easiest boss out of all of them. Not including the Pirates, DLC and Claws, which we are going to be including the sword from the Pirate and Claws. But it is a really, really good sword. This got me through pretty much the entire game. Because the lightning is extremely powerful, and it actually stuns bosses to the point where they don't move or attack. It can break through shields and any defense, and it pretty much one-shots enemies. The Knight boss I'd give a 3 out of 5 because it's pretty easy to kill. The Viking boss I would give a 2 out of 5 because when I fought him, I don't know if it's a glitch or not, but he pretty much doesn't attack. Because he has this one thing that isn't this, by the way, but he does do lightning attacks. He has this one thing where he just has this and he shoots it into the sky and loads comes down. I wasn't hit by it because it's really easy to avoid. This one does not give you any other perks like the Knight one. It doesn't give you extra health or anything, it just gives you a really useful thing. Its effect is lightning or storm, I guess. The Knight one, by the way, is holy, I forgot to say. But I would give this sword, I think I said 4 out of 5. No, I'd give this 5 out of 5 actually if I did. I'd give this a 5 out of 5 because this can make boss fights a hell of a lot easier. And it's relatively easy to get. Because the Vikings are easy to kill anyway. And the boss is around about the same. So here we have the Mongol sword, which is called the Tombstone. This sword looks cool, but it's not as cool as you'd think. It does this, which isn't crazy good. It's kind of like another sword, which we'll go over later. It does stone damage, which simply is an extra 30 damage. So it's pretty useful. It's the coolest looking out of all of them, I think. However, I think it is possibly the worst. The Mongol boss is pretty difficult, actually. It took me the most attempts out of all of them. Because he attacks often. He's got a pretty small head, so you can't, like, stab him in the head often or not. But, yeah. The Mongol boss tip, well, for all bosses, really, kill the mini enemies first, which is basically what I'm meaning by these. Kill these first. And for the love of God, have 2 swords. You don't have to use the second one, but I would recommend using 2 swords, especially if you have the Night Boss sword, which is the one with extra health. You don't have to use it, you can hold it in your hand. But yeah, that was the Tombstone. I would give this sword a 3 out of 5. Could be better, but it didn't get a 2 out of 5 because of how cool it looks. The ability is not very good, and the Mongol boss, I should not have done that. The Mongol boss I would give a 4 out of 5. Intense difficulty, it's kind of Dark Souls-like, if you want to call it. And it's pretty good, actually. It looks cool. The sword looked cool, though. But the ability is pretty weak, I guess. Good damage, weak sword. So now we are going to move on to the next one, which I believe is the Samurai boss. So this is the Kadoku, I think it's called. I can't remember. I'm pretty sure it's Kadoku. But the Kadoku is the samurai sword. Now, don't let the looks tempt you. It does look really cool. I thought that when I was fighting the boss as well for the first time. Because, fun fact, the samurai boss was actually the first one that I got to. But, the Kadoku is in fact the samurai sword, like I said. However, I think, unfortunately, looks cool, plays bad. It doesn't have a special ability like most swords. It's one of the 2 that don't, I think. Yep, it's one of the 2 that don't, the other one being the Night Sword. But what it does have is a unique ability, which is poison damage. It inflicts poison sometimes. It's got, I don't know what the chance is, I think it's 0.25, which isn't crazy high. But it's useful on main enemies. And it basically takes away the health quickly. If you're using this on a fight, if you're using this on a boss fight, I wouldn't. Because the poison drain doesn't really do anything to them, especially the final boss. I tried it on the final boss once and it didn't work. The poison does start on the final boss. However, it don't do what against him. But I will... There we go, that's the poison. It drains their health quick, but it doesn't last long. So I would give this sword a 2 out of 5, because the poison can be useful for crowd control, and it looks really cool. However, it doesn't have a special. But yeah, 2 out of 5. Samurai boss, I would actually give a 5 out of 5. It looks really cool, and his attacks are pretty cool, and what do you expect from a samurai, really? However, the sword itself does not live up to the looks. So next we're going to not move on to the final boss sword. We're actually going to move on to the pirate boss sword. Yet another one with looks that deceive. You just saw the special right there, but I'm going to go into it. This sword is called the gun sword, I think. And you can probably see it's got a little boomstick on it that does this. It blows them away. Short sword, strong gun. This I would recommend using for main levels. I wouldn't recommend using for bosses though, because the gun doesn't really do much against them. And it's kind of useful for crowd control, but it's fun to play around with, especially in arena. This is obtained by killing Blackbeard, but I like to call him Jack Sparrow, because if you actually see him, you'll know what I mean. He looks a lot like Jack Sparrow. He does actually use this, however the gun pellets aren't as good from him than they are for us. But I would give this sword a 4 out of 5. It's not got a perfect score, because the gun's good, however the sword isn't, because it's got really short range, because, you know, it is kind of a cut look. And for some reason it only shoots 1 pellet at a time. However, this is a really good sword, but like I said, don't use it for a boss. the ones I'd recommend for the boss, for the final boss, which gives you the final boss sword. I would recommend the Knight Sword in your left hand, and I would recommend the Stormbringer, or Storm Ruler, I guess, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. The Stormbringer in your right hand, because of the lightning attack. So yeah, that's the boomstick sword, I guess we call it, that you get from Blackbeard. I would give the boss I'd give him a 3 out of 10. Actually no, 4 out of 10. Because he's a pretty good boss, and I like the idea of having a famous pirate in there. Whether you take him for Jack Sparrow or Blackbeard, I don't know. But sword, when you're using it, not as good as it could be. However, the gun's better than what he uses. You better hope you're not on Santa's naughty list, because this sword will really give you hell if you're not careful. When Claus is using his sword, it is pretty powerful actually. The ability I'm using now, which is this, it actually slows you down like it does to these guys, and it does a hell of a lot of damage. It does about 100 odd damage. So I would recommend upgrading your vitality to the max. The sword itself, pretty good. However, like the rest, I wouldn't use it for a boss. In fact, I wouldn't use it at all because it's not that good. I give the sword a 1 out of 10. The boss is good, the sword isn't. It does average damage, average ability. It can only, I guess the only use it could have, slowing down a boss, but it doesn't do loads of damage. It is two-handable, by the way. I don't two-hand them, I don't know if you know. But basically, I wouldn't use this sword in a boss. However, I would use it possibly for the main levels, so 1 through 9. It doesn't really matter which. For the love of God, don't use it for the samurai, because they attack quick as hell. They attack quicker than you can cast. But yeah, I give Claws a decent score though. I'd give Claws a 4, because a solid fight, and it's got a unique mechanic. The floor falls during the fight. If you've got invincibility on and you're practicing, if you fall through the floor, you're gonna have to restart the fight. But the floor falls during the fight, which is pretty cool. So I recommend, for Claws, I think he's like the only one I'd actually recommend practicing with invincibility on. I wouldn't really recommend doing it for any other boss because they're relatively simple. By the way, if you want to know which boss to go for first, I think I've said this, but I'll say it again. Go for the Night boss and then go for Blackbeard. Also, by the way, Blackbeard's really easy to get to. While the other stories have 10 levels, the pirate one has 5. So it's really easy to get to, but the pirate one's got the Kraken to worry about. So, sword gets, I give the sword a 3, boss gets 4. So yeah, now we're going to move on to the final sword of the game. We're talking about the Hellbringer, I think it's called. So here we are with the final sword of the game that is a boss-based sword. And here it is, the Hellfire. Hellfire is a really good sword. Worst part is, you can only get it at the end of the game. So it's only really useful for trying to maybe speedrun all the bosses or something. Or if you just play it arena mode like I do. But it is really good, and a ability returns, which is this. We have the Tombstone coming back. However, this is a lot more powerful. This is obtained, as you'd guess, by killing the final boss. You get it by killing him. It's two-handed. Really good ability. And this is a bit different to the Tombstone, because instead of firing that, if you point it upwards, it does like an area effect, which is really cool. It has to be pointing straight upwards, and if you don't know if it's going to do area of effect, just look to the floor. My favourite boss sword though, probably the Stormbringer, because that got me through pretty much the entire game, and so did the Night Sword. But the Night Sword I didn't use for damage, I used it for healing really, because like I said, more health and better regen. So So I hope you found this useful. If you've recently played the game, or you're currently maybe playing it, and you want to have a bit of fun. If you want to know maybe which boss to go after first. Apart from this one. Disclaimer, you don't have to kill the pirates and claws to get to the final boss. Because claws and pirates were content update. So, first boss, definitely go for the Viking. Viking is an easy boss with a really good sword. Just want to give honourable mention to the kick, which is real useless. All it's good for staggering enemies, and if you don't level up your stats, can't do it as often as I can. A max level Taekwondo can get to is level 5, whereas stuff like strength and vitality is level 10. Yeah, there you have it. Remember to like, subscribe, you know what to do. Have fun being a swordsman out there. Also, please don't use a shield or an axe, they are absolute shit. So there you have it. I will see you in the next video.
Why did I record this bit at the end? Please subscribe.